coming up. Rob Browne in Memphis. Do us a favor, take a picture with your cellular phone of the QR codes. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels simultaneously. And then, of course, Brendan is posting reels every day throughout the day. A lot of shows, 8 of them on this channel. So it's your one-stop shop, and get ready for the hour of power. The best 60 minutes on the SEC you'll find anywhere, because we got the best producer, Brendan Martin, and the best guest like Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and Dawg Nation. You see him a lot, as some of the folks down in South Alabama call it, the Paul Finebaum show. I heard a guy say that one time, Mike. I'm like, Paul Finebaum? Oh, you mean Feinbaum. But anyway, look, where do you want to start with the big games this weekend? Any coach will tell you any game in the SEC is a big one. A lot of people already texted me this morning, Mike, about your article with the picture of Erskine Russell from Mobile, Alabama. Everybody's fired up about it, but thank you for sharing your time with us. And let's talk Dogs and Tide.
Yeah, 1976. We won't go too far into it, but since you mentioned it, I guess I didn't realize the magnitude of it. I mean, I'm 8 years in. I'm still learning a lot about the team I covered. Learned a lot about Alabama, learned a lot about Tennessee. And this 1976 game, I mean, no offense to Nick Saban, but Paul Bear Bryant won 5 SEC championships in a row. Nobody'd ever done it before, and nobody's ever done it since. And, Georgia's win over Alabama that year, 21-0 win. It was the first time that Paul Bryant's wishbone offense had been shut out since it was put in 5 years earlier. So there was a lot of significance, and Georgia snuck in an SEC championship there in 76. I had an opportunity to talk to Bob Baumhauer yesterday, and what a great legend he is. What a great man. I know you're familiar with the wings restaurants that he has everywhere, but you have people like that in the program that bleed crimson and tell the story. And he was on the losing side, and yet he understood the relevance of that. He pointed out how that game propelled Alabama forward as they went on to win more SEC titles and national championships. So, and you wonder about this Saturday night's game. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. You wonder about the future of Kalen DeBoer if he loses this game, and if Alabama goes on to miss the playoffs 2 years in a row. You wonder about the legacy of Kirby Smart, who only has 19 losses in 10 years, but 6 of them are Alabama with only 1 loss, albeit a national championship game. So, there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of legacy at stake. I think the future of Kalen DeBoer could be on the line ultimately. If Alabama wins this game, I still think they're a playoff team. If they lose, it probably goes more 50-50 for me, depending on how the team responds. You don't know about a team culture when there's so much newness in the staff. And again, a lot of these players, they didn't sign up for this. They signed up for Nick Saban, which is not to say that Kalen DeBoer is not a great coach. He is, but that is a disadvantage, to a program like Georgia where the guys signed up for Kirby and this coaching staff and relationships and the roles they were promised. Not saying it can't be overcome. We've seen it overcome before, but it is more challenging on Coach DeBoer.
Yeah, and you think about this, the history in this series. I don't think Georgia has beaten Alabama, but between the hedges, it's been like 30 years. And since 2020, what's Georgia's record? 63-3, but they're 1-4 against Alabama. And so what is the mentality, before we go to Doug and Frank, of Georgia's team? Kirby, I think, gets it, but are the players maybe making it too big in their heads?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think Matthew Stafford beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa in 2007, and I think Georgia won a game here. And that was Nick Saban's first year, or second year. I'm sorry. And then I believe that Mark Richt actually won his first 3 games against Alabama. I think he beat David Shula a couple times and then won that game in Tuscaloosa with Stafford. So Richt finished 3-3 against the Tide. Those players weren't here. I don't think there's as much carryover for the players as there is the fan bases and some of the analysts like us, been watching a while, and in our mind it's grouped together. But 54% of this Georgia roster, they've only been here 2 years. So that's not a lot. It's a lot of newness. It's a lot of guys that came in and trying to uphold something. What Georgia did when they beat Alabama for the title in 2021 and destroyed TCU and beat Ohio State, a really good Ohio State in 2022 to win a national title. No, I don't think it's too much on the players. I feel like, the way Kirby does his practices and the level of competition, I know it sounds cliche, and, my goodness, they just a couple of weeks ago, they won an incredible game at Tennessee on the road. I think that was a big game for confidence and for the coaches to kind of find out who's who and sort it out. So, no, I think it's just a younger Georgia team. Doesn't have the talent they did when nobody's going to stockpile the kind of talent they had in 21 and 22. But these guys are, look, guys, this is going to be a fight for survival every week in the SEC, all over the league.
Yeah, it is. Frank Duffy, jump in here. Mike Griffith, Atlanta Journal-Constitution and Dawg Nation. It's a great podcast, and read his writing, people. It's great stuff.
Well, it's not only the fact that Georgia has lost to them, it's how they lost to them. I mean, they got curb stomped several times by Alabama. But to your point, the psychology is totally different without the greatest coach of all time on the other sideline. All that changed. That's like talking about them losing Georgia 3 times during the Rick Shula era, or as me and Doug and Rob say, the good old days when Auburn was beaten 6 times in a row and we were beating them 5 times in a row. Totally different animal. I think what Kirby has done, though, is he has set a Saban-like precedence at the University of Georgia. And that's what's truly different. The culture has shifted. Yeah. Georgia is expecting to go out and win, and Alabama and their fan base are holding their breath because they don't know what they got. To paraphrase the great Alabama kick returner Forrest Gump, life is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get. And after Nick Saban, everything is up in the air. So, no, I think Kirby and them are going to lay in wait. I think they're going to win this ball game. I think they're going to cover. I think Alabama is going to have the grumblings again. Slackjaw Willie's going to be on, suicide alert somewhere in the bowels of Alabama. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think Kirby has set this tone. This is not going to be something that's a shock. I think it's something that Kirby and the Dogs are expecting. Yeah, they're a young team, but they've got depth, they've got talent, they've got as much talent as Alabama's got. And I think right now, if you have to say who's got the better program, it's the University of Georgia.
Mike?
Yeah. Well, I think they have the better program because of the continuity. The coaching staff probably has more cohesion, but I'm not sure they have more talent. I mean, I look at Alabama, Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton. I mean, I think that, I don't know that I can really separate the two. Ty's done a lot of good things this year, and as well as his Gunnar. But when I look at the receivers, Bernard and Ryan Williams, I mean, those guys are special, man. I mean, those guys are going to be on your fantasy football team someday. You look at Georgia. I think Branch has got some juice. Colby Young had a nice game against Tennessee. Is he ready? Is he a difference maker though? Last time he was down in Tuscaloosa, 5'9" cornerback beat him for a jump ball with the game on the line in the final seconds. He's a junior and get beat by a junior corner and one-on-one. I mean, you can't lose those matchups and call yourself a ball player. So I think
as well as I do in the SEC, games are won on the line of scrimmage, and I like Georgia's both their lines better than Alabama's lines, the offensive line and the defensive line. I think that's where this game's going to be won or lost.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to evaluate, the Alabama offensive line. Kirby mentioned, the field conditions at Florida State. You figure, Alabama crossed midfield 7 times. They got 17 points, but, that's first game, new offensive coordinator, bad weather, fired up Seminoles on the road. I think Alabama has not turned the ball over yet, Frank. You talk about mistakes. They haven't turned it over. Georgia's got 4 turnovers. Georgia's going to be missing Ernest Green, the starting right tackle. They got some freshmen over there at right guard and right tackle projected right now to play, or first or second year guys, redshirt, whatever. I'm not ready to say who has the better offensive line. Defensive line, Womack can do a lot of different things. They haven't done a lot with pressure. Georgia really hasn't either. I mean, Georgia only got to Tennessee quarterback 1 time. He threw for 371 and 4 touchdowns. But before we get to that, the reason why is because they're not getting teams in down and distance. If you don't get Alabama in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, it's going to be hard to get sacks. So, we keep dialing it back. It's going to go where you said, Frank. But who's going to win those 1st and 2nd downs? Because that's going to determine your opportunities to create catastrophic plays or havoc on 3rd down. Or conversely, if Alabama stays ahead of the chains, the opportunity to put the defense in run pass conflict, which makes them harder to defend.
Yeah. Doug?
Good morning, guys. Mike, always great to have you on. I really mean it when I say I consider you one of them. That for some reason, the movie title "Sudden Impact" comes to mind with your work. You brought a little of that north of the Mason-Dixon line spice with your work, and we love it. But you're very fair too, so I just wanted to give you that compliment. Speaking of compliments, the compliment I would give both Alabama and Georgia, these storied programs, which is a little bit of a left-handed compliment, I guess. Again, I'll probably sound like an Auburn guy, but the college football fans in the Deep South, if not the nation, have been for all these decades cheated out of what would have been great regular season games between Alabama and Georgia. And I understand, truth be told, because both programs have been so good most years, that it was probably in their political interest not to play regular season, both their interests, because prior to 2014, you really needed, ideally you go undefeated, but you better not have more than one quality loss. And so as you look back over the times they have played, and Duff will love this one, I don't remember many games, Mike, and would love to get your response to this if you've read about it. Although you're at what we call here in the South a young feller, look from the looks of it, but Pat Dye didn't even coach at Georgia or Alabama, but Alabama and Georgia were meeting in Tuscaloosa, and famously Pat Dye gave some sly as a fox motivation to the Bulldogs, his alma mater, saying Georgia ain't man enough to run the football. So, the two teams played, and Georgia won. Georgia won because they made more plays that day. But comment on any of those observations I made, Mike, and how you see the run game playing in tomorrow.
Well, you touched on something, and I'm going to take it to another place, and thinking about scheduling, right? And where my mind went was Big Ten, because Big Ten has you don't like to say it, but they have moved ahead of the SEC on the revenue model. And they're making more money off their television contract, and they've won the last 2 national titles. And there's been a lot of careful planning here. And somebody a long time ago that was really smart put the Michigan-Ohio State game at the end of the year. And the reason you backload the schedule like that is because then both these teams have these great records. One of them loses, but they lose to a higher ranked team. They don't drop as far, right? The SEC made a mistake having Tennessee and Florida closer to the start of the season. These rivalry games, in my opinion, these out-of-conference rivalry games, Florida State, Georgia Tech, I don't know how relevant Kentucky is, but South Carolina, Clemson, forget Kentucky, Louisville, those ought to be at the start of the year. Get that stuff out of the way. If you're still going to play them at all, Georgia fans get pissed off when I say this, but it's crazy that they play Georgia Tech. It makes no sense. A long time ago, LSU got smart and said, we don't need to play Tulane. We don't need to play Tulane. They're at home. Why are we playing Tulane? What do we got to get? Nothing. You got everything to lose and nothing to gain. And Georgia's playing Georgia Tech in a game that has meant absolutely nothing more times than not. And now it's gotten dangerous where Georgia Tech's gotten good, and now they're competing for NIL sponsors in the city of Atlanta. And you have done that by continuing to keep them on your schedule. I know about Trish. Look, it's a dog-eat-dog world, man. Corporate America. You don't take any chances you don't have to. I thought Georgia playing Florida and Jacksonville for years didn't make sense. Now there's going to be a billion-dollar stadium. There's going to be more revenue. Okay, now it makes sense. But how many recruiting weekends did they piss away by playing this game down in Jacksonville where they couldn't have kids in? They were one down on everybody else. That was 12.5% of the recruiting visits they gave up for a premium game. So decisions need to be made with the head and not the heart, because we are in a money game now. We don't have a bowl system where there's 30 teams that finish the year with a winning season anymore. If you don't make that 12-team playoff, you're going to get fired in 3 years. And you're not going to make that money, and you're not going to get those NIL deals. And think about the shoe contracts. Tennessee, Penn State, they're ahead of everybody else with Adidas. You know why? Because Adidas can pay their players money. Nike ain't doing that. So you got to figure that out too. You got to and in Georgia, well, we renegotiated a deal last year, but we're not going to tell you what. Yeah, you're not going to tell us what it is because it's not as good as these new deals. You got to. These are winning points. It's just any businessman will tell you there's several facets that you've got to hit, and you're only as good as your worst one. You can win 7 deals, but you lose one, and you wipe out all your profits.
And going forward, you got 2 cupcakes. You only got 2 cupcakes left now because of the 9 games.
That's right. And Georgia's still got to drop a team for next year. I mean, we're still waiting. To me, it's a no-brainer. So think about this. And I'll tell you where this is going to go. So Georgia's got 4 non-conference games next year as it stands. Tennessee State, Western Kentucky, Georgia Tech. You can use up a home and home on Georgia Tech, and Louisville home and home. You can't play Louisville home and home now. You can't play those future series, Clemson home and home, Florida State home and home, Ohio State home and home, not with a 12 or a 16-team playoff. You cannot play those games. You've got to go to what I thought was cockamamie a few weeks ago. Oh, Big Ten's got an idea for 24, 28 teams. You know what? Think about it. Now that we're here, that makes sense because you can play those games. You can back up the start of the season a week. More teams will get into the playoff. You can manage your teams differently. Does it sound like the NFL? Yes. Does what we see right now look like the NFL in terms of parity and pay? Yes. So go with the model that fits the game. I'm sorry about tradition. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, guys. Money is a factor. And if you want college football to continue to be enough of the revenue train to fund all these other sports, this model ain't going to get it done. You need to expand playoffs. You need to maintain those sexy out-of-conference home and homes, and you can't do that with a 12 or a 16-team playoff. You got to go bigger, or you're going to lose those marquee matchups in the regular season out of conference.
Yeah, and everybody wants to see these games played. I remember not too long ago, Florida State and Miami played their game at the beginning of the season. I mean, the first game of the year, I went to it one time. Unfinished business, they called it, after the 87 game down at the Orange Bowl. And I got to ask you this, too. And I wish Doug was back in with us. Hopefully he'll be back in a second. But you hear the term used, Blind Squirrel Sports is using it this morning on a comment to you, a question, physicality. Webster's is adding, I see, 500-plus words to the collegiate dictionary. One of them is dad bod, whatever the hell that is. I'm sure mom jeans is on there too. But is physicality, you being a journalist, Doug, smart with writing, and Frank, all of us, Brendan, is it a word or is it just a kind of a phrase?
I think it's a word. I think it's a lifestyle in the SEC, man. I mean, look at these guys now. They all get off the bus and I mean, that fat guy that's going to be good in a year. Yeah, he ain't here. He's somewhere else now. Right. You're getting the cut body that's been somewhere else for 2 years. You just got transferred in, and big boy's on the train out of town to whatever next level down school. I mean, it's elite. I mean, all these programs are elite. It's a different level. Now, they may be at different points of their development because a lot of those middle guys, those second teamers, they're starting somewhere else now, Syracuse or Indiana or Purdue or somewhere like that, or Ohio. And Ohio State, they'll just come take your best players. Yeah. I said this. I said, you think about this, and we compare apples and oranges all the time, and it's not fair, right? We say, oh, man, if Nick Saban was the head coach, well, let me tell you, what if Nick Saban was the head coach but didn't have Caleb Downs, but didn't have Julian Sam, but didn't have Justice Haynes, that didn't have that center that won the Remington Award, that didn't have Isaiah Bond? Kalen DeBoer is not holding the same hand. Them Kings and Aces are somewhere else now, guys. With Todd Monken was still at Georgia. He would not Todd Monken. Hey, Brock Bowers ain't here anymore. Todd Ladd McConkey ain't here no more. James Cook ain't here. You give Todd Monken these guys. You think the numbers are going to be? They're not. So you can't compare Will Muschamp, such a genius. Hell, I'm a genius. Give me 5 future first rounders on the D line. I'll get you a national title. Will Muschamp coaching these guys on, it's different. So we can't make these it's not fair to compare DeBoer to Saban and Monken to Bobo and Schumann to Muschamp because it's not the same personnel. There's more parity now. And Nick Saban got out because he didn't want to manage it, because he knew he didn't have the money to manage. He didn't have the leverage that Alabama had before NIL. He saw it. I was in Destin sitting there when he said, guys, do we really want to do this? He knew where it was going before it got there. Yep. And so here's where we're at, where, coaches are going to make a difference. That play call, Kirby Smart, a little bit over Josh Heupel. But at the end of the day, it's a field goal kicker missing a kick, man. That game's a coin toss. So, it's going to come down to who has the better players, sort of. It's going to come down to who has the better coaches, sort of. But it's close enough now, just like the NFL, that on any given Saturday, it's just never been more true.
Frank, you and I and Doug, hopefully will be back on with us. We look at a guy like Justice Terry, the big defensive tackle out of Manchester, Georgia. We were all joking. This was a kid last year, Frank, 5-star in the state of Georgia. Manchester, Callaway Gardens over there, Pine Mountain, 35, 40 minutes from Auburn's campus in the state of Georgia, goes to Texas. That's the guy everybody said, that's the first guy that you get off your bus when you pull up on the road somewhere. He looked like he's 30 years old. You don't see guys like that in Duluth, Minnesota. It is unreal, the physicality. I was being serious. I just don't know if it's in the dictionary, but I know one thing, Mike, this article that you wrote, this is a powerful piece. And Frank, jump back in. Sorry.
Well, physicality can be stenciled on your chest if the big guys that Mike are talking about if the guy's, not chiseled, he's already on his way to Wake Forest. By the way, those guys are not only big and strong, they run 4.7, 4.8 40s. I mean, that's the crazy part of the physicality. It's not the size. I mean, these guys are Adonises if they're taking their craft smart. And why wouldn't they? They're getting paid for it, not only at this level, but the next level. But they get off the bus and they look great, but then they can, be in bed before the lights are out. That's the thing. And recruiting's now coast to coast. If there is a great kid in Minnesota, Kirby can go find him, or Kelly can go find him. It's wide open. There's no regionality to this thing anymore. And look, if we're going to play the what if Nick Saban game, I want to play. Hell, you want to play the what if after Nick Saban left? What if Nick Saban never shows up at Alabama? You want to see what the trajectory had been like 14 years? Those 6 national champions are mine in Baton Rouge if he never leaves. I'll tell you right now. Alabama was a damn grease fire. So you can't play the what if game. You got to play the cards that are dealt you. And DeBoer is their guy now. And the vitriol and the panty twisting that you saw from the University of Alabama fans after that first game, and now they got to backtrack because actually the Tide's looking pretty damn good again. They're looking like the Tide. That'll show you what a fan base and a program's like. They're all over the board. Good. Yeah. And I don't give it. Not my problem, right?
Yeah. Well, Mike, what Frank just said, it's like once your mind expands from its original size way out here, you win championships. You're never going to revert back comfortably and be okay with 8-4. I had my Ole Miss friends used to tell me, they'd say Auburn would be playing them in Oxford, and they'd say, y'all in Alabama are just cannibals. You eat your own. We're happy with 6-5, 7-4, having a good time in the Grove. I said, why do you win 11 or 12 games one season? I said, once you eat a steak at Folks Folly or Ruth's Chris, you ain't going to be comfortable with that CK's, $3 cheap steak. And it's just what happens.
Try and find your way to Atlanta once.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, that's the biggest problem we got. Yeah.
Guys, before I got embargoed in the green room, sorry about that. You were talking about scheduling and the anomalies of that. And wouldn't you agree, Mike, that we have, which is sad for a lot of fans in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State, we've probably seen the last of Florida, Miami, and Florida FSU. Is that fair?
Well, I don't know how far out those contracts go. I think they'll probably maintain the Florida State rivalry. I would agree with you about Miami. I mean, I think that, some of those rivalry games were taken into consideration with some of the SEC scheduling model, which I don't think is that big of a deal, which 3 opponents, because you play everybody every 2 years. Some of those choices were curious. I mean, I thought Georgia's were appropriate. If you're Tennessee, you probably feel pretty good about getting Kentucky and Vanderbilt every year. And you still got to play Alabama, but they don't play Florida anymore. I mean, that's a tough one to lose. They don't play Georgia anymore. That's a tough one to lose. LSU doesn't play Alabama every year. That's a tough one to lose. But you understand that you want there to be some degree of equalness in the scheduling. Not everybody can have Texas's schedule, but you've got to understand the value of taking Texas. And part of the deal with getting Texas was getting them big TV ratings. I mean, Texas does bring tremendous value when you consider the major metropolitan television markets in the state of Texas. I mean, Dallas-Fort Worth, I believe they're 4. Houston's 4. I mean, 4 or 5, those 2 markets. And, Big Ten's got Chicago. Big Ten's got New York, New Jersey. Big Ten's got L.A. The SEC's biggest major media market is in Texas now. That's just where it's at. Now the ratings in Birmingham and in Atlanta and Memphis. I mean, these are college towns, college cities, I should say. And when you look at those ratings indexes, those cities are up there, elite. So even though the city may not be as big, you get a larger market share. There is value to that. But at the end of the day, part of the deal with taking Texas was, I think, to some degree, I don't want to say helping Texas maintain value, but you don't want to hurt them. It's good news for the SEC if Texas is good and fans are watching, because it's a higher market and it's more revenue for the league. And then guess what? That revenue gets split up and everybody benefits. So that was part of the price of doing business, just like the Big Ten taking USC and UCLA, that Los Angeles market. And, you're seeing Michigan State playing out there at 11 p.m. USC time, and USC comes back to Illinois, and it's a night game. And boy, that's convenient for USC. But guess what? You're cashing in on that market. So this is a business, and people are going to make, whether it's when they schedule games, who they schedule, what markets. It's about money, guys. The days of, oh man, the tradition and doing it for the kids and the fan. No, man, there's a bottom line here, and it's about turning a profit.
Yeah. Mike, I know you got a busy day. We had a late start, and that is my fault. We'll get it right next time. But let people know how they can follow you and keep up with all your great work, because you have no idea how much it means for all of us. And it's been like, sometimes you have a little air turbulence, but we're staying up in the air. But looking forward already to your next visit.
Well, listen, I like doing you guys' show. There's a lot of passion and knowledge in the room here. A lot of background, a lot of perspective, and people that have seen it from a lot of different angles at a lot of different places. And those are the conversations that I enjoy engaging in, because everybody sitting around the table's got a lot to say and a lot to offer. So, they follow me, though. Thank you, Rob, for the pitch there. They follow me on Twitter at Mike Griffith 32. I put up, links to my stories, and AJC.com right now. We got a lot going on there. It's pretty exciting. We got a lot of people joining us there. And you mentioned the Irk Russell story, and had a story about Steve Spurrier talking about Gunnar Stockton, and everybody just kind of held their breath about that. What in the world is Steve Spurrier going to say about? He's got a Heisman vote, and he telling us who his top two quarterbacks in the league are. Probably going to upset some people around the league with that. But that's nothing new for the coach. But anyway, that's where y'all can follow me at Mike Griffith 32. And man, I know we're going to have a lot to talk about later in the season. I look forward to visiting with you guys again. Like I said, this is great. So much fun, guys. Frank,
Mike, quickly. So it sounded like you may lean slightly Georgia's way tomorrow for different reasons.
I don't know. I haven't quite figured out how Georgia is going to stop two great wide receivers and a quarterback. But at the same time, Sanford Stadium is really underrated, and largely because they play their marquee game at a neutral site. So, but when Sanford Stadium has needed to be a factor against Notre Dame in 2019, 6 false starts, against Tennessee in 2022, 5 false starts, the stadium's going to be a factor. The question is, can Georgia get to Ty? Can Georgia or the Sanford Stadium crowd get in Ty Simpson's head? I think that's the story.
He's really playing well right now, Simpson.
Really is.
Yeah, Mike, have a great weekend, a blessed weekend, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. We'll see you. Have a good weekend.
Guys, that's a great perspective. And I know, I'm learning a lot about technology today. And anything that happens on here that goes wrong is always my fault. I promise you, because Brendan is doing magic behind the scenes. Guys, I'm with Mike. Both of y'all, the line of questions that comes from y'all is like a brilliant attorney in court. And that's what, when I was talking to Mike last night about that article about Irk Russell in Georgia in 76, we remember that game. It was almost 50 years ago. That was, they shut down and shut out Bryant's wishbone in 76. And I went to the Liberty Bowl, later that season in December. It was 9 degrees, and was on the field. And Alabama won 38-6 in Memphis against UCLA. And the Alabama players came out in the preseason warmups and cut off T-shirts to intimidate UCLA, going like, this ain't nothing to us. And UCLA was supposed to just wipe the field with them. And after the game, I was on the field, and I got to go down and meet Coach Bryant and Sam Bailey through my dad, and he was smoking on a cigarette. Mike gets it. He may be from north of the Mason-Dixon line, but man, he gets it, and folks follow him. And Doug, your writing, I got to give you credit in the dose. Man, and I got to ask you, you were not on when I asked the term. Is physicality, I know Webster's has added 500 words today. Is that technically a word in the English language, or is it just a phrase in the nomenclature?
I don't. You can get away with it, and of course, it's the English language and words are a dynamic, evolving thing. So I'm always hesitant to permanently declare a word,
Okay.
not legit. But I think it's improper use, physicality. Just like the one that drives me crazy, and it's technically acceptable, but I hate it, is that Saban does this. A lot of coaches call it resiliency. It's resilience. And I mean, that's tiny. Who cares? I'm
It
I'm an
matters.
English major, so I care. But you let those things slide because people are otherwise making a great analytical point normally.
Doug,
Okay. All right.
they're important, Doug, because if you saw that on a resume, that would probably do that person in.
Yeah, again, you can say resiliency. It's in Webster's. I just don't like that usage. But this is not a podcast about grammar and
I know.
diction.
By the way, Rob, I do have to let you know, I was a 15-year-old boy and watching the Sugar Bowl with those junkyard dogs of Irk Russell
Yeah.
play against Tony Dorsett and Pitt in that Sugar Bowl. I can remember yesterday. I think, and look, I'm good friends with Buck Bellew here in Atlanta, and Buck Bellew has been on a campaign for 20 years to get Irk Russell into the College Football Hall of Fame, and he should go into the College Football Hall of Fame. Anybody that watched his defenses all those years, defensive coordinator, the effect that he had, and if you ask any Georgia player from those years, it was almost like watching Buddy Ryan and his defense with Ditka and the 86 Bears. There was as much love and respect and loyalty on the defense side for their coordinator that there was for McMahon and Walter Payton for Ditka on the offensive side.
Yeah, and it was.
Guys,
it only has.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm going to be getting short on time. Sorry to walk on you. I just want to circle back to and we didn't really talk about Auburn A&M, which is fine because most all the pundits are picking A&M, and I think that makes me feel even better about Auburn having a shot. Not that I think they will win, but I think it'll be competitive and a little bit high scoring. I was reminded of Dave Bartu's quantitative geek out about open days. A&M was open last week after playing that big game, winning over Notre Dame late despite a missed holding call. And Auburn's very familiar with missed holding calls and called holding calls, phantom holding calls. So, but about Alabama, Georgia, seems to me both teams, for all their confidence and moxie, with good reason, the players have got, both come into this game with a little bit of anxiety. At least the fans feel that. With Alabama, was this a mirage the last two games because of quality of opponent, and it's in Bryant-Denny? How will we do when we go on the road, not just against anybody, but against his recently dominant team in the trenches? Is Ty Simpson for real? He sure looks like it, throwing for nearly 90%, I read. Again, that's the last two games. And if you're Georgia, is there a curse, a little voodoo going on with having such a hard time beating Alabama, although they did it in a national title game? And also, what does it mean that a vaunted Kirby Smart defense got lit up to that degree by Josh Heupel in Tennessee? So I think both early on, I think the coaches would love to make their opponent feel that anxiety by having those things happen. So you look for Georgia to really come after Simpson, try to make him feel those butterflies again from the first game. And if you're Alabama, you're going to try to light them up through the air. I suspect they'll run the ball, but if Alabama can hit them hard through the air, the worries from that Tennessee game come back. You get what I'm saying, guys?
Yeah. Yeah. And look at the stats on Ty Simpson. I think he's only had 5 drops the last 2 games. But again, against La Monroe in Wisconsin, five incomplete passes. 3 of them were drops. So, Frank, looking and based on what Doug just said, I'm picking Alabama to win the game for what that's worth.
Wouldn't shock me.
I just think I like their edge rushers better than I like Georgia's. And I do like Ryan Williams and Bernard, and the way Ty Simpson, but again, he's the one guy on Alabama's team against Florida State that never looked like he had, mailed it in. He's a coach's son. That's
Well,
something.
I want to back up what Doug just said, and I think it was salient. I think anxiety is going to play a big part in this game, Rob, because the anxiety, the bugaboo that Georgia has. And by the way, if y'all are thinking about breaking out the black jerseys, don't go burn them. Go behind Athens General and put those in a dumpster and catch them on fire. Because the last time I think y'all wore them, I think Alabama scored like 38-0. No, I think the anxiety of Alabama worrying that Florida State game was the rule and not the exception is going to have them worried. And Georgia has in the back of their mind the voodoo that Doug mentioned that Alabama has on them. I'm gonna make a comment. I think the first team to get a double-digit win in this game is going to go on to win the ball game. I like
Alabama.
I don't think you're going to see a Georgia-Tennessee type comeback. I don't think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see that whatever team goes out ahead. I think Doug is right. That other team is going to press because they got those ghosts in the back of their head. I think that does play a part in this game.
Yeah, I mean, anxiety, the most important 6 inches is between your ears. If you're playing tight, you're going to have problems. And I know Brad Bellamy's going to jump on here shortly. I'm not sure if he's still in Athens, Greece, not Athens, Georgia, but we'll see if he can get him in. But Doug, looking at these other games, and we hadn't talked about all of them. You mentioned A&M and Auburn. Tennessee goes on the road to play Mississippi State. We've seen this before. State's 4-0. Hadn't played a conference game yet. What happens in Starkville tomorrow at 2:30?
I'll give a quick shot at it. I think most analysts and fans are going to look at that, and they'll see the firepower Tennessee brought against a very good Georgia defense. Not a great defense, but above average. And they'll say, well, Mississippi State won't be able to stay with them. But there's something tricky about Starkville. People always like to say the cowbells, and that's a factor. It should be prohibited, but you know how the SEC goes. But I think Levy is turning the corner with them. That win over Arizona State was bigger than maybe it got credit for. So I think it can be competitive. But I don't think if it gets into the mid to high 30s, I'm not sure State can hang with that kind of shootout.
I agree with you, and I think the game that I'm really interested in is seeing what you guys do after getting screwed in Oklahoma. I can say it. I'm impartial. That was a jam job. What you guys do against Texas A&M, I think, is going to be incredible. Jackson Arnold looked to me like just as tough as a $3 steak. It's a shame that game, in essence, got taken away from that kid, because I think he played well enough to win that game. So we haven't even touched on a very interesting game, LSU Ole Miss, yet.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
It might be the marquee game when the dust settles.
That's how many games we've got that are on the slate. I was going to go to Oxford, but when I saw that all the other great action that we've got lined up, I'm going to be up in my theater with 4 TVs going. I just said, this is one that I'm staying. I'm not going.
Let me tell you what a serial killer Lane Kiffin is, notwithstanding this warm, sweet, kind choir boy persona that we were sold in the documentary. And I'm proud of Lane for, making good choices, especially kind of cleaning up what he said was an unhelpful habit with the booze. But what coach would give his blessing to his daughter, Landry, dating a star linebacker at LSU to distract them? Seriously, Lane, have you no shame, Lane Kiffin?
It is an interesting story. The Weeks brothers, I told Frank before the show today, they're going to have their own TV show. And you said they reminded you of the Hanson brothers, the hockey guys, but they're like that.
Well, I don't know about the timing of this. There's a lot of head games that are being played. I don't know who's doing who, and I mean that with double entendre. But no, I think it's funny. I think it's your typical LSU Ole Miss. shenanigans on. I mean, all that's missing is Halloween and Billy Cannon running the ball back. I think it's hilarious. I think Lane Kiffin has matured like a fine wine.
Yeah.
If I was
Yeah.
an Ole Miss fan, I would thank my lucky stars that he's in their program. I'm envious of him. I think he has just enough moxie to pull off those tweets and posts, but he doesn't delve in kind of Trump style with his tweeting at all hours of the night anymore. And I think that has matured him into being a not only a great coach, but a great manager of that Ole Miss program.
All right. Duff, I'm sorry I walked on you, Duff. I got to go in a minute, but listen, and I cleared this with my friend Duff. By the way, Duff, we're back next year, Auburn, LSU, in Dirt and Hair. You got to come to Lake Martin, you and Rob both. But
I love it.
I'm picking Ole Miss in this one in a high-scoring affair, and the fact that it will be high-scoring is why I think they have a chance to shock. I wouldn't say shock, but to pull one off against LSU. But here's the good part, Duff. I think that becomes a wake-up call for the LSU Tigers, and they go on to run the table regular season. My Bama friends aren't going to like that prediction, but I just think that this thing sets up to give Ole Miss a big day. And if I'm wrong, then it will look like LSU might just be for real.
Over 30, we lose. Under 30, we win.
I think that's a good take. Look, I mean, Doug, very good take. And Brad Bellamy joins us now, back from Athens, Greece. I hope you had some spanakopita and some good Greek food.
So many euros,
there.
Rob. So many euros.
so many, as they say down in LA. I like one of them gyros,
Exactly.
them gyros. It's a euro. But man, welcome back. We were hoping to get you last week. We were going to have Frank from Cancun, you from Athens, Greece, maybe from the Acropolis, live from could you imagine, Brent Musburger, you are looking live at the Acropolis here in Athens, Greece, as the Auburn Tigers and the Tennessee Volunteers go head to head in this big key matchup. All right, first off, tell them right now, I'm out at a wedding party with my son and his girlfriend, and she's going, I want to get a Bronco. And I said, well, Brad Bellamy, the general manager at Landers Ford, is in Athens because she wanted to go on Sunday. And I said, don't do that. Wait till he gets back. And they're not open on Sunday because the day means more than the dollar.
Right.
And so they're open every other day of the week. But I gave her your number, and she wants one of those Robin Egg Blue Broncos. But tell people quickly, and then we're going to get to some picks. I know you love to do that, and Frank does too, because it is college football season. It's 62 degrees this morning. It's actually cold enough to wear possibly a sweatshirt. But anyway, Landers, light it up.
All right, man. Thanks, Rob. Good morning, Frank. Good to see you too. Big things happening this weekend. Carterville Education Foundation, Landers Ford works with the Carterville Police Department. We have a huge car show at Central Church. So classic car show, 200 to 250 vehicles are out there. Really low expense to put your vehicle in the show, $25. Bring your car. But I'll be out there all day tomorrow, and love to have more folks come out, and all the money goes to support Carterville Education Foundation. What that does is gives grants to teachers. So it helps fund different programs and initiatives that they're trying to do amongst all the different schools in the Carterville School District. So come out, support that. And stop by the store and buy a vehicle, or get your vehicle serviced while you're here. Huge program right now. Buy 3 tires, get 1 free. Also $20 works rebate. So anybody that does a works package, they get a $20 rebate off of that program. That goes through Tuesday. So come on out, check us out at Landers. We still got a few golf tournament units left. All those priced at X Plan, and had a really, really strong month last month, and like the momentum we got going right now. So come on out, and let's see what we can do to help take care of your needs. And I want to hear from your girl over there, Rob, because I haven't heard from her yet. So we'll get her in the Rob Deck Blue.
Well, I told her you wouldn't be back till this Monday, so you're back earlier. So that I'll tell them today. But another thing too is that Frank, I can tell you this, and everybody watching, and there's thousands of people watching. We're so blessed. I've never seen a dealership that has done more in the Mid-South, in the area where they are. Look at the stadiums, what you're doing for the teachers. As Chuck Oliver says, that's not nothing, okay? That's a big deal. So thank you so much, Landers Forward. So, and buddy, we've been talking football. We got games all weekend. Technically today it's been kind of wild, but we're making it work. We've got 4 engines. We're keeping this plane afloat. Frank, and everybody that's picking the games, Arkansas, and I'm going to ask you, Brad, to start with this. Arkansas and Notre Dame. Who do you like in this game? Who's got more to lose and who's got more to fight for?
I mean, Pittman's got a job to fight for right now. I think if he loses this game, that seat gets a little bit hotter. We had the conversation. If you remember, Greg McElroy said it. I could see Arkansas losing to Memphis and beat Notre Dame, and I think there's a legitimate chance of that. I haven't seen a ton out of Notre Dame that makes me think that they're anything spectacular, but they've had a tough schedule. So, if I was going to go one way or another on that one, I think I probably would go Notre Dame. Arkansas, man, they blew a big lead against Memphis, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to watch much of the game. I was on a cruise ship in Santorini, but was really happy when I saw the ESPN app update and that fumble happened. But man, I think I would take take Notre Dame here with the 4.5 points, but I could easily see Arkansas winning this game. I mean, they do have a lot to play for. One of the bigger non-conference games they've had, at home in a long time. And so, they need the win big time. So that would be my thoughts on that one.
Yeah. And Frank, another big one that no one's talking about right now because we're in the South, but Oregon travels to Penn State. I mean, I don't know if you like that one, Frank. Who do you like in that one?
Well, again, I don't really like anybody in that one. I'm staying away from that one. A night out in Penn State, but I think Oregon has the talent to beat them. So if you're asking me what I would do, I'd stay away, but because I want to give a pick, I do like Notre Dame. I don't like them this year, but I like them in this game because Arkansas has found a way to lose 2 careless ball games. And when you lose careless ball games, it means you're not getting focus from your team. There's no way they should have lost that game last week. Horrible ball control for that late fumble. So I like Notre Dame giving up the points, but I would stay away from that Big Ten tilt. I think it could go either way. I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah. Brad, you look at the landscape in college football. Here's another game nobody's really talking about. Last year when South Carolina went on the road and tore up Brad White, the defensive coordinator at at Kentucky, they tore him up like 31-6. Now Kentucky comes and plays in Columbia. South Carolina's lost 2 straight. Lenoris Sellers, athletically, physically, this guy has about everything on the checklist that you want. What happens in Columbia tomorrow? Because both teams are, neither team's great.
I mean, just real quick, I think South Carolina is going to turn it around against Kentucky. Kentucky's not very good. The only team that they've been good against over the last couple of years has been Ole Miss. I like South Carolina to turn it around this week. Yeah. I like Vandy big against Utah State. If Chambliss plays for Ole Miss, I like Ole Miss in that game. I really think that he is a phenomenal quarterback, and he was great at Ferris State. People do not pay enough attention to Division II football, but there are some amazing programs out there, and the way he led that team and how they just ran through the playoffs, he's a really, really good quarterback, and Kiffin's got a goal line there. And I think if he plays and he starts, that they win that ball game. Quack, quack, Oregon all the way. Penn State cannot beat anybody that they're not supposed to beat. Oregon is that team this year that they're gonna beat Penn State. James Franklin can't get it done against teams that matter. He wins against teams that don't, lose against teams that do. And so until he turns that around, give me Oregon, whiteout or not, they're gonna win that game.
Frank, is in a good betting term I learned a long time ago, the trend is your friend. And I'm with Brad. Show me. Missouri's motto, the show me state. I don't ever see it. Do you think what other games really jump out at you? Because there's so many good ones this weekend. We've talked a lot about Georgia and Alabama, but Tennessee, Mississippi State. Anything else that other than what Doug said about that?
And guys, I don't want to be boring, but I got to tell you, sometimes Brad will tell you, sometimes the best bet is the bet you don't make. I got to be honest with you. I don't like a lot this week. It's a tough slate. When I went down, I like to try and go down once the lines first come out, and then I'll go back, Tuesday or Wednesday and see if the lines move, see if I can pick up anything. Man, I think this is an absolute tough slate. If I had a pick, I would bet Ole Miss. And look, I'm an LSU guy. I do think Ole Miss has us in a good spot. They always play us tough at Vaught-Hemingway. I think if it's a high-scoring game, I do think we lose it. If our defense comes to play and we're in the 20s, I think we got a shot to win it. Going back to Lenora Sellers, South Carolina is an enigma. I mean, I really thought they were going to play much better early on. I know he was hurt. They better get right. They better play Kentucky well, because then they got to come to Death Valley, and we have a bye before that. And again, with all due respect to Dave Bartu and the open effect, they're going to have a tough game coming into Tiger Stadium. We had that battle last year, so I think, to Brad's point, South Carolina has to win this game, and I think they have to win it significantly. So if I were to do that, I would probably bet South Carolina. I think Tennessee rolls. I think Mississippi State's a great story, but they're not there yet. And if I had to put a 3-team parlay together, guys, I'm going away from Bama. I think Georgia wins the ball game.
I agree, Frank. I think until it's kind of the same thing with Franklin and Penn State. Until DeBoer shows that he can show up and his team can show up for a road game, outside of LSU, I mean, talk about an enigma. That's it. Last year's LSU game is the only game where he had a team show up and on the road. And I don't like Alabama this weekend either. I that's a game that it's either going to be it's either going to be on the line, or I think it's a 14-point game. I mean, they've looked so bad on the road and been completely out of sorts, penalties galore. I agree with Tennessee too. I think Aguiar's been really good for them. And I think that reality sets in Mississippi State this weekend that Tennessee, they come out and they have a really good game. There's some games I like that aren't on the SEC though. I like Memphis a lot at Florida Atlantic. They're under 2 touchdowns, and I think Memphis football team right now has a lot riding for it. So tonight's slate, I like Florida State. I think they're the real deal. I like Houston at Oregon State. Oregon State's absolutely terrible. And all that to say, if I would have been able to say anything about last night's game, I couldn't believe Army was only a 3.5-point underdog. And man, was I wrong. They cannot execute a play. Did y'all watch that game at all last night?
I watched the pros.
It was awful. It was awful.
Yeah, and y'all are making so many salient points. And after this show, I'm going to be going on the Panhandle show with Buddy Martin on this channel. And by the way, Brad, next Friday, I was texting with Memphis coach Ryan Silverfield. He's going to join us next week, beginning of the show. And he said, as you know, our schedules are tight. And I'm like, man, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bill Hardgrave, my friend, the president at the University of Memphis. That's the reason that's happening, because, he's a busy man. But you know what? And by the way, people are coming out looking at vehicles this weekend. You got a lot of color TVs out there in the showroom at Landers Ford, don't you? And popcorn. Man, okay.
We'll have popcorn. We'll have Ryder Cup on one TV. We'll have 2 TVs with college football. So, I mean, we got it all here at Landers, and it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful weekend.
And Brad, wearing my red, white, and blue. I got my red, white, and blue Tour Championship hat on from a couple years ago, and I got my USA blue, baby. USA.
That's right. USA. Coach O. USA. Come on now. Let's go. Let's go to USA.
You saw Coach O with.
I saw he was
Hey,
great.
by the way, Brad, I do want to let you know. Go out right now. The last 2 days in baseball, I'm 8-0-1 on my picks in baseball. I'm on a hot streak in baseball because, as you know, in the last game of the season, Major League Baseball, you have teams that are still vying, and you've got other teams that are already packed their bags, waiting to go to Cabo. So, and my tie was the last game last night. The Mariners. I needed it to go over. It was on 7 runs, had men on first and second with 2 outs, and I got a little slap single. So I even pushed my last one. So go out and take a look at some of those spreads. They're not unreal.
Text your friend. Text your friend.
Okay, you got it. I'll post
and hey, Hey, listen locally on Sports 56. I do Landers Locks every week with Stats Norsworthy on their broadcast. And last week, 3-0 in NFL, 2-2 in college. For the year in the NFL, I'm 5-1, and on college right now I'm 10-4. So we're having a good little run.
We just thinks the living hell out of us.
Well, you know what? And Brad, we had Coach Mac Browne on, and again, guys, Landers Forward, what they do for the Touchdown Club. We had Mac Browne speak to the Touchdown Club a couple of weeks ago. We had him on the show last Friday. I think, Frank, you would agree, Brendan, Doug, all of us watching, it was one of the best shows ever. That man was absolutely on point. He just nailed it. And I tell you what, the passion, the TV ratings for college football, football is everywhere you look. You look at Indiana, they're talking about the traffic, the nightmare, the tailgating since Kurt Cignetti got there. It started the moment he was introduced at halftime of an Indiana basketball game when he was introduced as the coach. You know what he said? In front of everybody, he said, Purdue sucks, and so does Michigan and Ohio State. And he goes, I said it, I'm standing by it.
Notre Dame too.
Hey, look, what we can appreciate in the Mid-South, you know, Brad, growing up here at the Mid-South Coliseum, it's Monday night wrestling. We've seen a few guys get banged over the head with a chair, loser leaves town match, you know, all that stuff. College football is thriving, but the problem with the NIL and the portal, free market's going to work it out. You know that, Brad, being in business. I do it. You know it, Frank. Bottom line is people are watching the games, and there's more people than ever. We think it was so great 50 years ago. The crowds were nothing compared to what they are today. So if you want to buy into the negative narrative, that's on you. Success is a choice. You got to make the choice to be successful and find excuses to win. Just like I was told the best advice by Henry B. said, it ain't the doing in life that's so bad, Rob Jr. It's the dreading. Get out and see Brad Bellamy. You want to get a new truck? Go see Brad. He'll walk you through it. You said 8 hours sometimes with people. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes. So awesome stuff as we about wrap up. But go ahead,
And
Frank.
both of our businesses are helped by this drop in interest rates. It's going to be huge for Brad's business, my business in real estate. We got 2 more drops coming. I think we're going to get probably 2 more in the next year. It's going to be huge. We're going to be rolling. Yeah. By the way, to your point about how awesome college football is, at the Ole Miss LSU game in the Grove, and believe me, the eye candy in the Grove is worth driving over from Big Canoe. But I got to tell you, college football was better than LSU football this weekend for me. College football trumped LSU football because of the slate of games. That's why I said it's so hard to pick them. They're going to be such great games.
Yeah, it is. Look, we've run out of time, but Brad Bellamy, LandersFordMemphis.com. Thank you so much. And we've got to, and Brendan is going to get with you, Frank, after this. But let me say something about Hewlett and Dunn, right down the street from Landers Ford in Collierville, on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. They're open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Around Christmas, after Thanksgiving, they're open on Sundays through Christmas. But the barber, the Filson, the boots, the men's and women's clothing coming in every day at Hewlett and Dunn. Great people to work with. Charles Hall, Raven, Carpenter, J.M. Huffman, everybody there. They will help you, and you will find the best-looking clothes, boots, hats, anything you want from the best. Also, Rumble Boxing Gym, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. How you fight is how you live. And the Lights Out Gummies, people, order them. We are going to always promote them. They've got the tea with the lights out. You can order with the QR code, 25% off. Use promo code Sidelines. It's hempforpros.com. Easy to find, but Dave Bartu hopefully be back on with us Monday. He's been out elk hunting all week. So, buddy, we're about to do a show here in a few minutes, the Panhandle Show on this channel. It's going to be fun. So stay tuned. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Most often we see
Panhandle Gator Club show, just so you know, we'll see you and Franz Beard. So
yep, it's going to be fun. And look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. Find ways to share your success with others. We'll see you Monday, but come right back. We'll be on the Panhandle Gator Show in just a moment.